Okay, I think we have enough people to have some fun today, so we can start recording slowly. Welcome on Decision Trees for Better Architecture. If it's not the session which you wanted to attend, it's the last moment to step away. If not, my name is Jakub Stefaniak. I'm a Director of Engineering at Akiva Labs, so we are a PTO partner, which means that we build app exchange apps for ISVs, the smallest possible niche in the ecosystem. Very nice place to be. I'm a CTA, and topic about decision making and decision trees in general came because during my education at Stanford I had to make some capstone project to pass. It was pretty nice project, so I turned it into a full paper which is going to be available on Salesforce Architect blog later this month. Great blog, lots of resources, strongly recommend. But what is important? You don't have to focus on small numbers, on the small fonts. If you want to check details, it will be on the blog. Please focus on the concept and methodology. That's all what you should think about in the next 25 minutes. So, let's start with some brainstorming. What are characteristics of the right decision? And I would love to hear something from you. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, decision-based data sounds like always a good option. Anything else? Exactly, that's super important. Measure the risk and think about probabilities and impact. Being rational, yeah, I think. I never thought about this, but that makes sense. Okay, so to wrap it in some example. If let's say we have a party. It's a nice party and we found that we are out of alcohol. We have super simple decision to make. We can kill the party, we can go on foot to the next shop, even if it's not very close for us. What probably we should not do is take our car and go to a gas station. And there is a big chance that we can drive after alcohol and buy wine and go back home. But on the other hand, we can die in an accident. We can meet police and lose our driver license. So all of these negative scenarios, even if their probability is not very big, make us to think that it's not the best decision to make. And if you want to memorize only one thing from this session, that would be this sentence, that the right decision doesn't always ensure a good outcome. Especially when we are doing business, when we are doing architecture, our job is not like playing chess when we know everything and we can just solve a puzzle and make the one good decision. The problem is what you said, risks and uncertainties. It's rather a poker game when we know something, but we don't have the big picture, and still we are responsible to make the optimal decision. And it means that the good decision is just about picking decision which has a highest probabilities of the good outcome. So all what we are going to speak about in decision trees is a tool which helps us to think about all these risks, about all possible outcomes of our decision, and pick the decision which has the highest probability for the good outcome. So, to make it more interactive, we are going to be a typical Salesforce architect in a mid-sized company. When we have some executive sponsor coming to us to help with relatively standard decision. Let's imagine that we have a few employees doing some terribly boring job. Month after month, they extract data from our Salesforce, do some transformation in Excel, prepare some one CSV, and send it to some government agency. Boring job, terrible job, and we have to pay them salary month after month, which of course is source of pain for our executive sponsors. And instead of doing it manually and spending money on their job, one of our sponsors came to us and said, hey, let's do something with this, let's solve this problem. And luckily, as it happened in mid-sized companies, our sponsors use YouTube, use Google, and they found this awesome app exchange app which solves all problems. Super easy, just click and everything is going to be perfect. On the other hand, we are spending quite lots of money on our development team. We have some in-house developers, and in computer science we always have this attitude, we can build it for free and it's going to be better, right? So, to solve these political tensions, our sponsor came to us and said, hey, should we build or buy? And as Salesforce Architect, we have now some time to prove our skills and help with this decision. The first step, gather some data before we make decision, is like a very good starting point. So for the App Exchange product, you go to the page and you see what is the license cost. You know that to adjust to your specific requirement is going to take some implementation cost, some time, and in 1 month it can be go live. So we quickly can start have savings on our manual work. On the other hand, we've spoken with our lead developer. He take a look on the requirements and he said, yeah, easy peasy. 6 months, we know salaries of our development team, 80K implementation cost, and then the maintenance is going to be relatively small. Maybe some changes in CSV format, maybe some bug fixes, but we can estimate that the maintenance cost, of course, is going to be much lower than the cost of our licenses from App Exchange. And we can even put it on the decision tree. So after 6 minutes, we can theoretically close this session because we have a decision tree. Based on it, we can make decision. We see build 6 months, buy 1 month, different implementation cost, different license cost. So maybe before we end the session, let's make some voting. Who is into build? Please raise your hand. That's a good option. With computer science, I'm always prefer build, of course, but maybe who is into buy? Is my second favorite option because in PDO we always have App Exchange partners. Okay, so I'm not going to finish this session now because of this guy. As we are in Paris, you can go to Louvre, and Caravaggio painting The Fortune Teller, one of my favorites, always helped me to remember that if somebody is talking about future with big certainty, probably he's lying. And it's what always happens when I'm talking with my lead developers. The ugly truth is that based on historical data, I know that in 30% cases we deliver projects on time. But in 60%, it's not going to be 6 months, it's going to be 1 year. So this initial implementation cost is going to double as well. How to make this 40%, 60%? If we have data, if we have some historical data, that's perfect. So then at the decision tree, we are putting this nice circle to mark the risk, the uncertainty. If we do not have historical data, it's a little bit more complex, but you can try to estimate these probabilities. So it doesn't matter if it's like 5 or 7%, but based on asking yourself, okay, am I kind of certain, which means 90%? Not. Am I okay-ish? 50%? No. So maybe like 40. If not 40, maybe 10. And just by kind of self-coaching, self-evaluation, you can have high level optimization on a evaluation of this risk. And looking on this decision tree now, it's a little bit more meaningful. But before you make any recommendations, there is one cognitive bias called Neuroflamic. So it's very easy when people came to us and ask build or buy to focus on either build or buy. What we should always try to do is to avoid this Neuroflamic and at least ask ourselves, what if none of these options is available? And if we compare like initial higher cost of maintenance, higher cost of implementation, always another option is to do nothing. So nothing is worse than spending $1,000 on $1 problem, which means that if it would be like 1 hour per month, doing it manually would be probably still a good option, right? So think about what is our saving, what is our profit. Or if our main problem is this risk about delay and being over budget, we can just outsource development and go with fixed price contract. And then we do not have this risk. We pay for some consulting company to take it. And instead, we can go with local consulting partner, so do it for our purpose. But if we found that there's only one App Exchange app doing this stuff, we can go to PDO partner and build our own App Exchange product and try to monetize this. So having now a few options allows us to make much more meaningful decisions. And now our decision tree is starting to be a little bit bigger, a little bit messy, and I'm repeating. On Salesforce Architect's blog, you can check my calculations, but it's not important to focus on the numbers. you see the scale that after just putting this few things, adding information about our profits, about time and so on, our decision tree is starting to be quite a meaningful piece of data. And now let's make it easier for you. So the subset of it, as we see, we have all these dimensions of our decision on every output. So time, cost, one-time cost, ongoing cost, the profit which came with specific solution. The challenge now is the fact that we are comparing apples and oranges. So we have like 4 different dimensions and we are trying to pick decision based on what. So instead of doing this, let's try to unify them. Our time, our maintenance fees, our risks, profits, and uncertainties. Let's try to unify all of these things together. And it's a moment when lots of people say, yeah, but it's difficult, and why you have to do this? Let's ask John. John never think too much, just make decision. Guys, fact that it's difficult is why they're paying us reasonable salaries. So more difficult is the problem, better for us, because then you can prove your skills. Be happy with this difficulty. So to now simplify it, to unify all this data, we are just trying to pick a specific moment in time. If you are doing development, for sure in the next month your return on investment is going to be small. But you know that maybe like for the next 3 years, we are going to use this API, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. It's rather coming from business than from you, but you can ask, what is the timeline of this project? And in our examples, we picked 3 years projection, so we calculate that, okay, we have like in 3 years, 36 months of potential go live, minus our implementation time. We know what is our one-time cost, what is our ongoing cost, so we can calculate for this specific time which we are planning the project, the total profit and total cost. Now, in the decision tree, we have only 2 pieces of data, profits and costs for every possible output, so comparing it is starting to be easier. And in iterative way, we again go and simplify it. So if we had profit and cost, it's super simple math. You take 1 minus 2, you have a final output. So now, on the decision tree, we have 1 score, 1 numeric value of every possible outcome of our situation. And again, in iterative way, we are going to simplify decision tree to just reduce the size of it. So if you have the case about building app exchange product, we don't have any data to estimate what is our chance for success. But we know that in the worst case scenario, we are going to have app exchange product good enough to work for us. So profit from this worst case scenario, it's very similar to just building it with consulting partner for our own. We heard on some TEDx or whatever that 90% of startup fails, so we say, okay, our success chance is 10%. Simple estimation. And we can estimate what is potential revenue coming from the single app exchange product which exists. So based on this, we have like expected profit for positive scenario, for a negative scenario. And in simple way, we can just multiply these probabilities and calculate the expected outcome for the full decision outsource to PDO partner, build our own app exchange app. When on the decision tree, we have a sub-decision, so outsource to who? Local consulting partner or PDO. Now we see that for the local partner, we have expected outcome below 200K, for PDO partner and app exchange app, above 200K. So again, I can simplify this and say, okay, if we are going to outsource with fixed price model, for sure we are going to go with PDO and try to build app exchange app. And now, after a few iterations, our decision tree started to be pretty simple. We have 4 options: build, buy, do nothing, outsource, for sure with PDO partner, and we have the expected value of every of this decision. So, let's wrap it up. We start with problem. Good definition of problem is critical to be able to solve it. Then, we think about possible solutions. If we have only 2 alternatives, it's neuroframing. Let's try to make some brainstorming, find more options. Then, let's think about all of these dimensions, all objectives which we are trying to solve to make optimal decisions. And to do not compare apples and oranges, let's quantify them and try to unify to a single numeric value. And then, in iterative way, simplify the decision tree, until making the right decision is easy. The key takeaways. First, that it's not sexy, it's not art, it's rather a craft. So first decision tree takes some time, after you do it third, fourth time, it's starting to be quite easy, and it helps to think about all of these objectives, alternatives in a systematic way. Comparing apples and oranges never is a good idea, so unifying them help you to make the good decision. Even if there is a risk that you lose some data on this process, that's fine. It's better than having this headache and saying, oh, what we have to do, there are too many things to think about. Simplifying decision trees, it's iterative way. You are starting from right to left, repeat. Depends on how complex is your decision tree, it can take some time, but at the end, your goal is to have a nice, very simple decision tree to pick one choice at the end. And the good thing is that these decision trees are very beneficial when we have to explain our thinking process to other stakeholders. So if we go back to our scenario, when executive sponsor asks me, hey, build or buy? And 3 days later, I can go back and say, John, we are going to build App Exchange product and start selling it. He would be probably surprised. Maybe not in my company, people get used to my way, but in many cases, showing this decision tree can make much easier for us to explain our assumptions, our estimations of this risk. And it's as well a tool which helps other people to say, okay, but I don't believe that we fail 60% projects. Maybe we fail only like 20% over time. We can then go back and adjust our decision tree. And last but not least, with building this diagram, the journey is at least as important as the destination. So the fact that you force yourself to systematically think about all these things help you to make a better decision just because you force yourself to think about all of this. And as we said at the beginning, the good decision doesn't guarantee the good outcome. But thanks to thinking about risk and uncertainties in a systematic way, you can, even if you are accepting the risk, make it in a reasonable way, which means that even if the outcome is going to be bad, you can say that you make better mistakes. And making better mistakes is an awesome step to have a really good outcome on the average. So that's all from me. Thank you a lot. And I believe we have time for a few questions.
I have a question as a your employee. Are you using the decision tree like on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis. I'm using them based when the project is potentially complex. So for example, when we made internally decision, do we want to start academy for juniors? And we had like lots of politics, different tensions. It was quite thick with uncertainties, so I made a decision tree. If I will have to make evaluation about, for example, using, I don't know, CPQ or marketing cloud about field service when we don't know the full scope, it will be as well. So for simple tasks, it's overkill. For things which are like months long and can really pain when fail, yes. Any more questions?
Did you make wrong decision by using this?
The awesome thing is that you cannot really make a wrong decision. Even if you have a bad outcome, it's like with playing poker. If you make a dead with 80% probability that you will win and you lose, the decision was still good. The bad outcome, of course, it's still painful, but it's much easier to live with this. You see that, okay, outcome was bad, but I will make exactly the same decision because next time, again, I have 80% probability of success. And by the way, in a company as well, it can save you a little bit that people do not expect you to do miracles. You can explain them firstly what is the risk, and then they as well can agree to this. So that makes your life as architect better because you are a trusted advisor for making risky decisions.
Do you do this on your own, or do you take a lot of knowledge from other people? My fear would be that you make wrong assumptions, you know. The metrics is just as good as what you put in. And maybe I'm a gut feeling person, like your example, John. I think like you often have a better gut feeling that you can actually put in such a matrix because you factor in more. So how do you make the numbers?
Okay, so how to make the numbers? Long story short, always I prepare the first iteration on my own, and then I present it to people. If somebody changed my assumptions, changed my estimations, that's fine, because it's like this part when you can discuss and then you can adjust them. But usually I would not try asking people at the beginning, because then I will get answers, oh, it's not possible to estimate this, and then we are not making any progress.
A time where basically the risk is too high and the risk is not acceptable, because here you just choose with the number, like say, hey, the highest number is the better, but for example, if I have something like out of 10% success rate, maybe my gut feeling will still say, hey, don't play that.
Sure, so it's like classic example. If you play Russian roulette and you can win like $1 million per luck and or die, like what is the expected outcome of the game? You do not do it like in a high school on the math class, because this negative scenario of dying generally is much more painful than winning 1 million, right? And I would say if you have situation that this failure scenario means that the company is going to, for example, bankrupt, then you do not put it as zero, you put it like minus million or whatever, and from this calculation as well you see that you never go that way.
Do you have an idea how to incorporate inspect and adapt into that equation? It's not an easy number, it's a soft factor. So if you do Russian roulette and the gun is 100 meters away, the chances that you hit the bullet are 1 to 6, but the chances that you miss the target you had is 1 to 100 or so, or that you hit the head from 100 meters is still very low. So you could mitigate risk by expecting more from more checking the way to the outcome, and one of the outcomes may be for a big time project you have literally no method to adjust later after you put up the specification. Others might be better. So I have having a bit of a hard time of translating this to soft factors that you could build in instead of the hard ones which revenue.
So I would always say that with mapping soft factors to numbers, you should try to ask yourself, okay, am I like quite sure of something? And then you're putting this 90%. If I'm not quite sure, does it mean that I'm quite sure that it's not going to happen, like 10%? Probably not. And then by self-evaluation, try to go to some middle ground. I know that some people try to just map these numbers to some English words, so most likely, likely, unlikely, and then just say 60%, 40%, 20%. So that can be as well a way.
So what do you do with a customer that's saying, I have internal Java developers, it's a shared team, so the development cost is zero for me? You see what I mean? Because I see that all the time. We do have internal Java, you gotta use it. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So then your calculation is becoming challenging.
Yes, so it's quite difficult. Of course, you can lead this conversation by asking, okay, so are they slaves and how it happened? Where can I find them, right? Other option is that you can give them some time and like allow them make their own mistakes, and after half year go back and say, hey, do you already have a success? And you not. It can happen that not. Then like offer you consulting service to help them with solving this. As PDO, you know, we have many ISVs who start with this attitude, yeah, I can hire some freelancers, why do I need PDO? And that's fine, right? Give them 2 years and they will find why working with PDO is better than finding your own freelancers. Okay, last question? Or we are good, so we are on time. Thank you a lot, and yeah.